It started as a faint whisper from the dark, a speck of light barely visible in the depths of the cosmos. But what scientists first believed was just another comet has turned into something far stranger. 3I Atlas, our latest interstellar visitor, has defied every rule we thought we understood about comets. It burns brighter than physics allows. It glows green without the chemicals that should create that light, and it's scattering light in ways no known object has ever done. Telescopes from Earth and space, Hubble, James Webb, Gemini, and even TESS, are all pointing toward it, and the deeper they look, the less sense it makes. What is this thing? A cosmic wanderer, a fragment of a lost world, or something much more deliberate? One thing is certain, 3I Atlas isn't just visiting our solar system. It's rewriting what we thought reality was. When the Atlas Survey telescope in Chile first spotted it, astronomers were intrigued but not alarmed. It looked like a typical comet, bright, icy, drifting in from interstellar space. But that illusion didn't last long. Within days, the world's major observatories realized they were watching something unprecedented. 3I Atlas wasn't behaving like any comet we've ever seen. Its speed was staggering, its light unpredictable, and its core, unusually small, seemed to release enormous energy. Hubble's first high-resolution image revealed a nucleus no larger than a few kilometers, yet surrounded by a thick, asymmetric coma expanding faster than models predicted. The dust tail, instead of flowing away from the sun, curved oddly toward it, defying solar pressure. Scientists at first blamed measurement error, until every telescope confirmed it. Even TESS, designed to search for exoplanets, had detected it months earlier, showing that the comet's brightness had increased 5 times more than expected. The more they observed it, the clearer it became. 3I Atlas was awake, and behaving like it knew it was being watched. When the James Webb Space Telescope turned its golden mirrors toward the interstellar intruder, it uncovered something extraordinary. Using its near-infrared spectrograph, Webb detected gases escaping from the comet, but not the usual cocktail of frozen water and simple volatiles. Instead, 3I Atlas was venting carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and traces of hydrogen cyanide, all while showing almost no signs of water ice. That shouldn't be possible. Typical comets only become active when their ice vaporizes near the sun. Yet this one was spewing material from deep space, far beyond where sunlight could heat it. Even more shocking, the spectral data showed that some of the dust wasn't reflecting light randomly. It was scattering it in aligned, patterned waves. Webb's analysis suggested that the comet's surface might contain metallic grains, possibly nickel and iron, but with ratios so extreme they couldn't be explained by natural processes. Was it forged under conditions unknown to science, or under control of something else entirely? Then came the color. As it approached the inner solar system, observers from Chile, Namibia, and the Canary Islands noticed the comet taking on a faint emerald hue, a haunting glow that shouldn't exist. Normally, comets turn green when sunlight excites diatomic carbon molecules in their coma. But 3I Atlas had already been classified as carbon chain depleted, meaning it shouldn't have enough carbon to produce that glow. Yet the light persisted, shimmering vividly across telescopic images. Some scientists suggested that the color could come from unknown molecules fluorescing under solar radiation. Others believed it was the sign of a chemical transformation, triggered by something internal, something waking up as it drew nearer to the sun. For many astronomers, the phenomenon crossed the line from chemical curiosity to existential mystery. Because if the green light isn't coming from the elements we know, then where is it coming from? While telescopes raced to capture every fragment of data, the world of science found itself divided. Renowned Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb published a series of papers suggesting that 3I Atlas's size, motion, and composition could point to something far more controversial: alien technology. Loeb argued that an object this massive shouldn't exist in interstellar space without artificial help, that its flight path and acceleration patterns could be the result of engineered control, and that its odd chemistry might not be natural at all. Most researchers dismissed the idea as speculation, pointing to early data errors and natural explanations. But even the skeptics admitted that the object's polarimetric behavior was beyond anything they'd seen. Its light didn't just reflect. It bent, twisting polarization vectors in a way completely unique among comets, asteroids, or interstellar bodies. It was as if 3I Atlas wasn't just passing through space, it was interacting with it. And that, more than anything, is what has scientists worried. Because if this object truly is reacting to its environment, what happens when it reacts to us? As observatories around the world continued to monitor 3I Atlas, something strange began to emerge from the noise of the data. Hidden within the fluctuations of its light curve was a faint but rhythmic pattern, a consistent modulation repeating every few minutes, as if the comet were pulsing. At first, astronomers dismissed it as instrumental interference or rotational flicker, but the periodicity was too precise. Even after accounting for the comet's spin and its irregular shape, the pattern persisted with unnerving consistency. The pulses weren't random either. Their spacing formed harmonic ratios, mathematical intervals that mirrored those found in acoustic resonance, not celestial motion. Some theorized it could be a magnetic phenomenon caused by charged particles streaming from the sun. Others suggested it might be an entirely new kind of energy behavior from interstellar material. But a small group of astrophysicists quietly entertained a darker thought. What if the signal wasn't a byproduct of physics, but a form of synchronization? Something inside 3I Atlas was keeping time, like a clock counting down to an unknown event. Then came the images that changed everything. During one of its observation runs, the Hubble Space Telescope captured an unexpected transformation. The comet's coma, once smooth and spherical, had reshaped itself into a flattened, disc-like structure. This wasn't a trick of angle or light. The data confirmed a real geometric shift. Even more perplexing, its tail began splitting into two distinct streams curving in opposite directions, as if some internal force were repelling its own material. When analysts applied photometric filters, they discovered faint concentric rings expanding from the nucleus, like ripples on water. The rings were evenly spaced, impossibly regular for natural outgassing. Whatever was causing them wasn't chaos, it was coordination. For a moment, it almost looked alive. Some compared it to the pulsating jets seen in quasars, scaled down to comet size. Others speculated it might be a rotating magnetic field interacting with solar wind. Yet one unsettling truth lingered. Hubble had captured a structure behaving as though it were maintaining itself, defying the randomness expected from a ball of ice and dust. As Webb, Hubble, and ground-based observatories combined their data, another enigma surfaced, one that left even veteran astronomers speechless. The way 3I Atlas reflected light didn't fit any model. Normally, the brightness of a comet decreases predictably with distance from the sun, following the inverse square law. But this one didn't. At times, it appeared brighter when it should have been fading, as if it were amplifying incoming light instead of merely reflecting it. Detailed polarization studies showed an even stranger effect. Certain wavelengths bounced off the comet in reversed polarization, meaning the reflected light carried information about the direction and phase of its source, something only structured or engineered surfaces could produce. It was as if 3I Atlas possessed microscopic mirrors embedded in its surface, each one angled perfectly to redirect sunlight in ways that made it appear alive. Some scientists tried to model this behavior using crystalline ices and metallic dust grains, but the equations only worked if the materials were arranged, not randomly distributed, but patterned. The comet wasn't just reflecting light, it was encoding it. Then, just as quickly as the mystery deepened, everything stopped. The strange pulses vanished. The disc-like structure began to collapse. The twin tails dissolved back into a faint haze, and the green light dimmed to nearly nothing. Observations from Webb showed the object entering a state of eerie calm, its emissions falling to zero, its spectral lines flattening as though something inside it had shut down. The scientific community called it a transitional quiescence, but others saw it differently. The timing of the silence coincided exactly with its exit from the inner solar system, as if 3I Atlas had completed a task and was now retreating. Radar readings revealed one final anomaly, a faint burst of microwave energy, directed not toward the sun or Earth, but outward, into the black. It wasn't strong enough to be random noise. It was sharp, clean, and deliberate. For a few fleeting seconds, every instrument pointed at the comet picked up the same narrowband transmission before it vanished forever. Whatever it was, it didn't behave like a dying comet's final sigh. It felt more like a message, one that had been sent, received, and acknowledged. In the aftermath of the final microwave burst, data centers across the world began comparing logs, hoping to identify a source or explanation. What they found was impossible. The same spike in energy detected by Webb and Hubble also appeared, faint but clear, in instruments that hadn't been aimed anywhere near 3I Atlas. Weather satellites, radio telescopes, even deep-sea communication arrays all recorded a split-second fluctuation in background radiation at the exact same moment. The signal wasn't directional, it was everywhere, as if space itself had briefly vibrated in unison. When the data was compiled, the waveform produced a repeating pattern, 6 long intervals followed by one short, like a cosmic heartbeat. But the most chilling discovery came when astrophysicists converted that waveform into a 3D model. It wasn't random noise, it was a spiral, identical to the one traced by 3I Atlas's orbit through the solar system. Somehow, the object had imprinted its trajectory onto the very medium of space, leaving behind a residue of information that couldn't be erased. It wasn't just a signal, it was a signature. Weeks later, solar observatories monitoring the sun's magnetic activity began reporting a subtle but repeating anomaly. Every few hours, small fluctuations appeared in the solar wind, faint waves of plasma traveling outward, synchronized with the rhythm of the earlier signal. These weren't typical solar oscillations. They carried harmonic patterns, structured intervals repeating in sequences too regular to be natural. When mapped in 3 dimensions, the disturbances formed an outward expanding lattice, extending along the same plane that 3I Atlas had used to enter and exit the solar system. It was as though the object had left behind a resonance field, a trail woven into the flow of solar particles. Each fluctuation behaved like a faint broadcast, a whisper traveling across the heliosphere. Some scientists argued it was merely a magnetic echo of the comet's passage, but others noticed something far stranger. With every new pulse, the amplitude increased slightly, as if the echo were growing stronger with time, or as if something was amplifying it from beyond. A team at the European Southern Observatory decided to analyze the comet's last known coordinates before it vanished. By connecting each observation point, from its detection to its disappearance, they discovered that 3I Atlas's trajectory wasn't just a hyperbolic escape path. When projected in 3 dimensions relative to the Sun and the orbits of the inner planets, it formed an intricate geometric figure, a tetraspiral, repeating the same angular proportions found in atomic resonance patterns and galactic arms alike. The math was astonishingly precise, with an error margin of less than 1/10,000th of a degree. It was geometry at a cosmic scale, embedded in the path of an object that shouldn't have known how to calculate it. The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Was this shape coincidence or deliberate design? Could 3I Atlas have been following a blueprint, a pre-programmed route meant to trigger resonance with planetary orbits? If so, the object wasn't just a traveler. It was a messenger, carrying the language of structure itself, a message written not in words, but in mathematics. And then came the discovery that shattered every remaining assumption. The final deep space scans from Webb revealed faint distortions near the region where 3I Atlas had vanished, localized warps in spacetime that defied gravitational explanation. These distortions pulsed faintly at the same intervals as the global signal, bending starlight ever so slightly as they expanded and contracted. When physicists simulated the data, they realized what they were seeing wasn't a gravitational wave, it was a phase shift. Space itself was oscillating, as though a region of the solar system had temporarily slipped out of sync with our dimension. The phenomenon lasted less than 10 seconds, then disappeared completely, leaving only a thin band of residual radiation, identical to what was recorded when the WOW signal was first detected decades ago. For many, this was the final piece of evidence. 3I Atlas hadn't merely visited our reality. It had interacted with it, bending its fabric, transmitting across dimensions, and leaving a fingerprint that might never fade. The question wasn't what it was anymore. The question was what it had activated. Just when astronomers had accepted that 3I Atlas was gone forever, a faint anomaly appeared in deep-field images from the James Webb Space Telescope. It wasn't where the object was expected to be. It was far beyond the trajectory calculated after its departure, almost as if it had jumped. The image showed a dim, pulsating glow, repeating the same 6 long, 1 short interval as before. But this time, the light wasn't moving away. It was stationary. Spectrographic analysis revealed that the emission wasn't reflected sunlight. It originated from within the object itself, radiating at a precise temperature that fluctuated rhythmically, almost like an engine cycling through phases of operation. To everyone's disbelief, the data also indicated trace signatures of the same exotic carbon compounds once seen around 3I Atlas, a chemical fingerprint unique in all of astronomy. It hadn't disintegrated. It hadn't vanished. It had transformed. And now, sitting motionless in the dark, the object was broadcasting again. But this time, its pulse was directed not outward, but toward the sun. Within days of the object's reappearance, solar observatories began recording something no one could explain. The sun itself started echoing faint rhythmic bursts of electromagnetic activity, perfectly synchronized with the new pulse from the object. Each emission originated deep within the solar corona and expanded outward in coordinated waves, repeating in the same mathematical intervals found in 3I Atlas's signal. For the first time, scientists witnessed the sun behaving as if it were responding. Some theorized that this was a natural resonance, triggered by magnetic interference between the heliosphere and the object's field. Others weren't so sure. The timing was too exact, the harmony too deliberate. Instruments detected no solar flares, no eruptions, only perfect pulses of electromagnetic radiation shaped like concentric spirals, each expanding through the solar system at the speed of light. Every planet within range recorded the same pattern. To many, it was undeniable. The sun was mirroring a language we didn't understand. A conversation had begun. Then came the alignment, the moment when Earth, Mars, and the sun fell into near-perfect resonance with the coordinates of the returning object. For a brief window, the geometry of the solar system recreated the same tetraspiral pattern previously traced by 3I Atlas's orbit. During those hours, observatories worldwide reported simultaneous distortions in the magnetosphere and faint electromagnetic hums echoing through the ionosphere. The patterns of interference matched the harmonics of the earlier signals, but there was something new, a sub-frequency encoded within them that resembled biological resonance, oscillations found in DNA and neural activity. It was as if the signal was probing for harmony, aligning not just planets, but life itself. Theories spiraled out of control. Some said it was a natural feedback loop. Others whispered about a test, a calibration, a deliberate act of synchronization between celestial and biological systems. Whatever its purpose, the resonance was expanding, pulling the entire solar system into a rhythm that felt less like coincidence and more like choreography. As the alignment reached its peak, every major space observatory turned its instruments toward the region where 3I Atlas had reappeared. What they saw defied every known law of physics. The object's glow intensified, stretching into a luminous network of filaments that linked to the solar wind, forming an enormous web-like structure that spanned millions of kilometers. Within that web, bursts of energy rippled outward, traveling along invisible pathways that mirrored the orbits of the inner planets. Then, for a few seconds, the background radiation across the entire sky shifted, as though the cosmic microwave background itself had flickered. In that brief moment, sensors on Earth and orbiting satellites picked up a new frequency, deep, harmonic, and unmistakably structured. The field wasn't just lighting up space, it was rewriting it, imposing order on the chaos. Some described it as an activation, others as an awakening. But one fact was clear: 3I Atlas had triggered something far larger than itself. Whatever was unfolding wasn't local. It was system-wide, and possibly universal. And then, silence. The luminous web collapsed, the pulses faded, and the cosmic flicker vanished as quickly as it had begun. Every telescope across the solar system fell blind for a fraction of a second. Then the darkness returned to normal. No one could explain what had happened. The signals, the harmonics, even the distortions in the microwave background, all gone, leaving nothing but static. It was as if the universe had simply blinked. But buried within that static was something new, a residual hum that shouldn't exist, faint yet perfectly structured. When scientists filtered it through spectral analysis, they found a repeating pattern, identical to the orbital frequencies of every planet in the solar system. Not just Mars or Earth, all of them. It was as if the entire system had been tuned, synchronized to a frequency that matched the pulse of 3I Atlas. The discovery split the scientific world. Some argued the event was a natural chain reaction, an electromagnetic resonance triggered by the comet's unusual chemistry. But others saw something deeper. The harmonic ratios in the residual signal were intentional, forming a sequence identical to prime number intervals, a mathematical signature of intelligence. More disturbing was its origin. The hum wasn't coming from deep space anymore. It was coming from within the solar system, reverberating softly through the solar wind, like an echo left behind. And yet, one final discovery silenced every debate. When NASA cross-referenced the last coordinates of 3I Atlas with archived data from Voyager and Pioneer, they found a precise alignment. The object's final trajectory intersected perfectly with the heliopause, the invisible boundary separating the sun's influence from interstellar space. But what made this impossible was what followed. A faint optical flash recorded by Voyager's aging sensors, a pulse identical in wavelength and timing to the object's last transmission. For a moment, it seemed as though 3I Atlas had crossed the boundary, and something on the other side had answered. Since then, deep space antennas continue to pick up that hum, not constant, but rhythmic, matching the heartbeat of the solar system itself. Some call it an after effect, others call it contact. Whatever it is, it hasn't faded. In fact, with each passing month, it grows just slightly stronger, like a memory refusing to die. Maybe 3I Atlas wasn't a comet at all. Maybe it was the spark, the switch that turned the solar system into a transmitter, broadcasting something we still don't understand. Because if the resonance wasn't just a side effect, if it was meant to awaken something dormant within the sun, the planets, or even within us, then the question isn't where 3I Atlas came from. It's what it left behind. And somewhere, far beyond the edge of light, something is still listening.